overcoming objections with rebuttals and the value, the importance of what a rebuttal is. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into it. I'm excited. I'm pumped for this. I love talking about the subject because this is for all the shit talkers out there that say, I can't close a deal and because the owner said this and that, blah, 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 blah. The reality is you can't close the deal because you haven't sat down to strategically figure out how to solve the prospect's concerns. And there's a strategy to it, all right? For every business, there's a strategy. And we're going to talk about some specific examples that we cover in real estate, commercial real estate, in our brokerage firm, MTIP Commercial in particular. So I'm really excited to do that. For those of you guys who do not know me, all right, I'm, again, Mike Maccabee. This is our brand, MTIP Commercial Real Estate. We have an online university called MTIPU. For those of you guys who want to subscribe and join and learn a shit ton more about commercial real estate investing, entrepreneurship. If you guys want to really get and grind with what it is that we do, I highly recommend you guys check out mtipu.com right now. Okay, I've been in this business for almost 15 years, a little over that. I've been in a variety of different companies throughout my life, but my core essence is transacting in commercial real estate, syndicating, and a brokerage as well. So, without further ado, let's jump into the topic today and ask this very critical question. Why is it important to use rebuttals, but more specifically, rebuttal scripts? And what is a rebuttal and what is a rebuttal script? So for those of you guys who don't know what a rebuttal is what you say when someone asks you a question in a sales negotiation, right? In a cycle of conversing with someone. And this could go across any multitude of persuasion tactic, right? You can be in front of a banker, the CPA, a lawyer, a potential life partner, a girl, a guy, whatever you are. And they pose a question in the line of conversation, and you have to be able to answer that, okay? So this happens every day in all of our lives, especially to salespeople or people that do negotiating. And it's something that I think you guys need to learn to master. And you can master if you realize that there's a strategy. Okay? So that's what a rebuttal is. A rebuttal script is something that you took the time to write down that basically is a perfectly articulated response to a highly specific question. Almost a recursive question. Have you guys ever noticed that when you guys are doing, maybe you have a sales call, you're on the phone, you're in person, and you kind of hear the same answers. No, because, not right now, I got to talk to my partner, this and the other. And it's almost universal, right? But I bet you $1 million you never sat down to actually write those critical questions these people keep asking you down on a piece of paper and then answer them like an open-ended answer. So that's what a rebuttal script is. We take all these very, very crucial questions, pertinent questions your potential prospects have. In our case, as a real estate firm, we deal with property owners, sellers in particular, off-market sellers, and we probably have, tens of thousands of phone calls recorded, and over the course of a career now, we've taken down and we've heard these recursive, we see a system here, a pattern of recursive questions or responses or comments that these people have made to our salespeople. And what we have done is we've taken those and we've written them out and we have formulated, our group, our entire team, with me being the top of it, we have formulated specific responses so that you don't have to think about it. You just memorize it, you understand it, and boom, it's like a counterpunch. The second they strike, boom, you're ready to give that rebuttal, all right? So that's what a rebuttal script is designed to do. It's to enhance your skill set so that you're prepared. The moment someone throws you a curveball, quote unquote, you know how to respond, okay? So there is a universal rebuttal. We call it the Golden Rebuttal here in our company that we use all the time. All right, I especially say this and emphasize this to those people out there, especially on my team, that are just starting out in the business or any business and they don't know how to answer, right? You don't want to sound like a schmuck. You definitely don't want to lie. Don't ever lie. Don't answer like an idiot by saying something else, right, or different. Instead, we came up with this response. When an owner or a prospect asks you a question where you do not know the answer, you should say something like this. Hey, sir, ma'am, that's a terrific question, a great question. I just jotted it down. I'm writing it down. And I'm going to convey it to the principals, my buyers, my partners, my broker, associates. And the next time we schedule our call together, I'm going to make sure that either they answer that very important question for you, or I'll have an answer ready to give you. Okay? That could go as a universal response in any situation. You don't sound like a schmuck. You're not lying. You're not saying something ignorant or stupid. And you're not taking advantage or trying to manipulate the prospect. You're being very direct. You're being very honest. And people respect and appreciate that level of integrity. And it's not even something super sophisticated. But at least, even if you're an amateur, a beginner, the fact that you have the ability to say something as basic as what I just read, it'll get you ahead. Okay, it'll get you to the next call, to the next meeting. And also, it'll help teach you, oh shit, that was a great question this guy asked me, and I didn't know what to answer. So what you do is you really write it down. And what you do with that is you take it to your mentor, your broker, someone that has been in the business longer than you, and you ask them, hey, I got this question, and I had no clue what to answer. Boom, here's your answer. There you go. The next time someone asks you that question, what do? You put it in your script rebuttal, your rebuttal script, and it's always there. Now, for those of you guys who followed me last week in our last encounter together, we talked about the power of sales scripts and how significant of a role they play in the sales cycle as a salesperson. The one thing we didn't touch was how significant the factor of rebuttals are and how they come into play. If you recall in the story I shared with you guys, there was a group of salespeople that weren't closing deals in our firm. And this had happened to me in several different businesses. And I always asked them, I said, what's your problem? Why aren't you able to close the really, really amazing leads our company is providing you? And there's always an excuse. I don't know if you guys are salespeople, sales managers, business owners. You ever hear this recursive problem? Excuse, excuse, excuse. So I took the liberty to follow what the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, in his book shared, which was he sat down with his salespeople, right, when he was just starting his company, and he asked them, what are the problems? What are the obstacles? What are the comments or the questions that these customers are asking you that you feel stuck at where you cannot solve? And they're like, there's a million of them, these people said to him. And the truth was, there was about less than 15 after an hour spent in a room of 12. Okay? The funny thing is, that same thing happened to me. So I shared this story last week, and the significance is, this week, I actually want to divulge to you what my salespeople shared with me as obstacles that have stopped them or have not allowed them to push forward in that sales cycle and that conversation to get to a close. So above me, these are specific points to defend. We're going to go through a sundry of them. All right. I tried to get as much as we could. I asked my team to even add as more. Some of them are specific to exactly what it is that we do. But if you have a creative imagination, which hopefully you do, you can see the similarities across whether it's residential or if you sell shoes or if you're a digital marketer. It doesn't matter what your business is. All right. The idea is you're going to have people asking for making comments or demanding things or asking tough questions, quote unquote, and you need to have those questions written down and your answers readily available and memorized like a professional, like an expert. This is, by the way, the differentiating factor between the amateurs and the experts. The experts aren't geniuses. They just realized if you write things down, right? If you actually strategically, think about what it is that you want to say, how you're going to say it, the tonality of what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, then you're going to get to a place of success. Okay? So, let's look at a couple of these quick examples. These are straight from my sales team, okay? Number one, a guy says, I don't want to sell, or I don't know how much I want. You make me an offer. Or number two, why is your escrow duration request so long, right? Why do you want such a long contract term? 3, signing a purchase agreement before any due diligence. Why would I sign my contract, the rights over of my building, my property, to you without you doing any preliminary due diligence? Why are you trying to trap me into this deal? Number 4, submitting. So if you submit a deposit, an earnest deposit after the due diligence period, right? Normally, it's when you open a contract, you put a deposit, good faith deposit, and then you do your due diligence, and then you waive it, and then you close. We do things a little differently. We only deposit and then release the earnest deposit after our due diligence period. So someone might ask, why are you doing this and not the traditional route? Number 5, assignment clauses, all right? There's a term called and or assignee that you put behind the buyer name, the entity that's going to buy the property, which allows you to then assign the contract. And those people that are out there that are a little more savvy, they're going to ask, what's the deal here? Are you trying to make an extra vig on me? Are you trying to make some more money on me? Why have you added the add or assignee clause in it? Number 6, I have to talk to my wife, my business associate, my partner, etc., etc., etc. Number 7, I don't want to do a 1031 exchange, right? I'm not looking to buy another property. I want to cash out. I want my money now. Don't want to wait. Number 8, I don't like your contract. The hell with it. I want to use my contract and my attorney and so forth. Number 9, I'm going to use my own broker, or worse, I don't want any brokers involved. I don't want to pay any commission. And the list goes on, all right? Now I'm going to cover all these and then some, but I want to go through all of the questions first. So in this example, this gentleman might say something like, I don't want you guys to send me any more solicitations, any letters, any phone calls, any text messages. Stop, leave me alone. I want our property or my property out of your database and don't talk to me ever again. This guy said, no, we're not interested. We're trying to do our own remodel, expanding our business. We're going to invest capital into the deal ourselves for development. We don't need you. Leave me alone. Maybe a question is, are you trying to buy the property to develop it, or do you just do the entitlement aspect of the purchase and then pass it along to a larger developer? And that's a question asked to us a lot because we are developers. And when we syndicate sometimes we syndicate just the plans and the entitlements, and sometimes we push it all the way through to the very end. Another great example question is, why don't you guys as buyers first go and see what you can actually build, right? And then after you figure that out, then we go under contract. I don't want to be under contract and have you drag me for this set duration of due diligence. Why don't you do that first and come back and talk to me? Another question they ask is, people that are owner occupied in these commercial buildings, they might ask you, listen, I don't want to sell my real estate without my business. Are you willing to buy the business as well as the real estate? Another one could be, Do you expect me to tie up my property without you putting any deposit, which I covered earlier, right? Very, very critical question. Now is not a good time. Leave me alone. Call me in the future. Don't call me at all. Or again, I need to speak with my whoever it is. They're blaming the leadership role to someone else. The mantle of burden of responsibility. We talked about that. Talked about all these. So let me now give you guys some of the answers. Look, these were a lot of great questions my team came up with. Okay, I'm going to go over all of it in detail. Again, I'm going to physically respond each one of these, and I'm going to show you guys the actual responses. But I wanted to give you guys a bunch of examples, right? Some of these examples are real generic. It happens across the board in all sorts of businesses, right? It doesn't matter what the service or the product may be. Some of them are hyper-specific to our type of business and product, and specifically to our pitch. So on the front end of things, you have a sales script. The sales script is what you're asking, right? As a salesperson, someone that's negotiating, that's opening the conversation with the prospect, with the property owner, you're asking them a series of questions. And if you're doing your job right, they won't even have time to breathe to be able to ask you a question, because you're doing such a great job. You're engaging them and you're getting them to respond to your line of questioning. The whole point of the rebuttal is, if you break pattern, or if they're a shrewd prospect, right? Someone that's a little more sophisticated, someone that's a little harder to push through, and they start pushing the finger back at you. Hey, wait a minute. You're asking me all sorts of questions. I have a couple of my own. And then they hit you with one of these questions. You got to be prepared, all right? So to address the I don't want to sell, or I don't know how much I want, okay? If someone doesn't want your product, okay, someone says in any format of it, I'm not interested, go F yourself, this is a waste of my time, how much you offering, all sorts of these variations, right? Guess what you have to do? You can't ask the same person, you can, but you shouldn't, ask the same person the same question in the same way. A clever negotiator will learn how to, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but you'll be able to transfer energy, right? Transfer your words, and to contextualize it or articulating it in a way where you're basically asking the same question, but in a different version. So if someone says, I'm not interested, I'm going to say, why not? I'm not going to ask them again, are you interested? Would you like to sell? I'm going to ask them why. I'm going to ask them an open-ended question, and I'm going to get them to engage me, okay? Or I don't know how much I want, or I don't know what my property's worth, or I don't want to sell. I'm going to create a solution to a potential problem. That's what negotiating is, okay? You want to first understand, by asking them questions, what their problem is, okay? They just made a statement, I don't want to sell. Why don't you want to sell, Bill? What's holding you back from wanting to sell, Bill? What can I help solve right now by selling your asset, Bill? You want to see what would motivate them to want to sell. And then you want to be able to angle a solution, have a variety of readable solutions for them so that you can use as a rebuttal. Okay? For example, you can say something like this, Bill, do you want to create more wealth for you and your family? Bill, do you want to increase your monthly cash flow? I know how to help you do that. Bill, you told me your rents are undervalued. Why don't you let me help you raise that income? Bill, it seems like you're having a hard time managing the asset. You got a lot of headaches with your tenant. I can help you solve those problems, alleviate those things for you. Okay? Bill, in a dream world, what would be the best number? The number that will make you so excited for you to actually entertain the notion of selling. Okay? Those types of rebuttals to I don't want to sell are critical. And notice what I did. I engaged the guy by asking him a question to his question, and that's allowed. A lot of you guys don't realize this, but a smart negotiator, what we call a politician, a bureaucrat here, what you want to do is you want to engage the person by when they ask you a question, to respond with the question in a non-condescending way. Okay? You want to get them on an emotional level. I don't know how much I want. I don't know how much my property's worth. Here's some rebuttals to that. When's the last time you had it appraised? When was the last time you had it refinanced? Because that's when they had it appraised. When's the last time someone sent you an offer on your property? And by the way, when you reach out to these property owners, a lot of them are going to be like, oh, I get solicited every day. Great. When was the last solicitation? And how much did they offer you? Because I want to give you a better deal. I want to win your business. I want to make sure you go with me and not the other guy. People don't think of these basic rebuttals as a way to engage negative energy and redirect to positive. The guy's coming at you with, listen, I get bothered every day. I'm tired of this. I'm really sorry, Bill. I don't mean to waste your time. I really want to earn your business. I really want to solve your problem. Let me be the person to help get you there. Okay? Or maybe there's a dispute on the price. And I'm mentioning this because this is all related to value and price. The guy says, I want $5 million, not a penny less. Okay? And you know $5 million is a ridiculous number. I never negotiate the price. I never negotiate the price because that's the first part of any conversation with an owner. And that's where you can kill the deal. You can kill the entire call on price if you allow it to happen. So what I do is I avoid price, meaning I avoid negotiating price in the beginning. I let the owner feel comfortable throwing out a number, any number, high, low. I completely disregard the value in the beginning of the call. And what I do is I say, no problem. I will work to get you that price. But, Bill, if I get you that price, will you then ... So what you did is you took away what he thought was, you're never going to give me this $5 million, which was what most buyers or salespeople will say because they're dumb and they'll go straight into negotiating. Big mistake. Don't do that. Don't fall into that pit, that trap. What you should do instead is say, no problem, Bill. That's fair. I respect that. I appreciate the $5 million. How'd you come up with that value, Bill? Make him work to explain his $5 million. Okay? Bill, if I turned around and sold you a building today, how much would you pay for a similar building? Oh, I pay no more than 3. But you want 5, so how do you justify that, Bill? Playing devil's advocate in a polite way, in a sophisticated way, will engage the person to continue the dialogue, build rapport, and that's a nice way to actually get him to negotiate. And you're doing it where he's shooting himself in the foot, right? Because now the person is chronically needing to explain themselves because all you did is you pounced out the right questions at the right time in a tactful way. Okay? So those were some examples, some basic rebuttals to I don't want to sell, I don't know how much I want for it, or if they have some finagled number, what to do in that kind of a case, in that kind of a context. Hope that was valuable to you. Okay? Those are very typical, common questions I get all the time. Avoid, again, I'm saying it again, avoid asking for or negotiating the price at the beginning of the relationship. Wait for it. There's like a cajillion other things you got to go through before you talk about price. You want to know what the price is. You want to know where the psychological state is as an owner, but you do not want to jump the gun. Okay, number 2, long escrow duration. In our line of business, all right, which is commercial real estate, residential real estate in comparison is really quick, all right? I know a lot of wholesalers, a lot of flippers, syndicators that are in that side of the business, They find a deal within 24, 48, 72 hours. They assign or sell that deal and flip that deal. Okay? We are not in that business. Commercial real estate is super slow. Okay? It's a relaxed line of business. It's not quick sales. You're not selling cars. You're not selling pistachios in the corner of the street. The people we talk to are elevated, more sophisticated than the average homeowner, okay? Which means that they're business oriented, because most commercial property is investment geared property. It's their second property. It's where they put their business. It's a non-emotional asset most of the time. Not to say that there aren't properties that have been handed down generation to generation, from father to son to daughter, but most of the time it's a non-emotional transaction. So for them, it's about digits, numbers, and investment basically. So what we do as a strategy is I try to do the opposite of what the market dictates. Currently, most of the wholesalers out there, the syndicators, are going after low valued assets, which is something we do too. But when we realize we can't get the price we want, then we work on terms. And anyone's been in the business knows this old saying, you don't get price, then offer the terms. So what does that mean? Okay, there's three types of sellers. A high valued seller that's above the market price, a fair market seller that's at the market price, what it's worth, and then there's a low valued seller, which is beneath the market price. Okay. Now, 99% of everybody out there is trying to go after the last one, which is the bottom of the fruit, the tree here. It's not that something that we don't do. We do, but we also believe there's a tremendous value in the middle, right, the fair, and also in the high part value product that's out there. There's a demand for all three, okay? So what we do is we have a strategy. Even though it's our core focus to go after the undervalued property, right? Buy cash, quick, make that money, move forward, make the highest margin possible. What do you do when someone says, that's a high price, says, why do you want a really long escrow? Well, the answer is it's part of the strategy. If someone wants $1 million, let's say, for their building, and it's worth $700,000, so they're asking 30% more than what it's worth today. What we do is we say, listen, I'll trade you your $1 million for 1 year, for 18 months, for 2 years. Give me a contract for a longer period of time where I can have control over your asset, and I will get you that $1 million. Now, they know, these people know, these sellers know that they're asking for a far-fetched price. And they also know no one's going to pay them that price. Maybe some lunatic. But if you can persuade them in an intelligent fashion that it is possible to get the $1 million, if, for example, you rezone it, get a variance, shift the current situation of the asset to something more lucrative, right? Like getting entitlements or a variance, taking it from a warehouse to retail to collect higher rents. They don't want to do it, but we can. We just need your what? Cooperation and time. And that way we can pay out the $1 million. And it's a win-win for both parties. Because technically that owner, right, that's been there for 30 years, 20 years, and that runs a mechanic shop out of that warehouse, he's not a developer. He's not going to go to the city to get entitlements, right? He just wants this number that he's been dreaming of. The solution is that you need to ask for longer terms. Higher price, longer terms. Higher price, longer terms. The third option, right, is the short escrow period. Okay? Excuse me, the fair market price. The fair market price means you're not getting a steal, you're not getting an overpriced building, you're getting a building at the market price. So what do you do in that instance? This is the reason we've developed a brokerage. Okay? Our brokerage not only represents our own fund and other clients, but we did it because when there's no margin to syndicate, to assign, to wholesale a deal, a broker makes between 1% to 6% commission. So those of you guys out there wholesaling for that kind of fee, you might as well go become a broker or an agent, because that's what they do, right? They list property at a fair market price, hopefully, right? You have a reasonable owner, and you just sell in the market, you make your commission. So notice when you talk to an owner, you're probably going to get one of those three instances. High price, longer term escrow. Fair market price, reasonable escrow term. And then undervalued property, they're going to probably want a quick deal because there's some level of distress issue over hovering this property. So they're going to look for a cash close quick deal. Okay? Again, our focus is in all three instances, even the distressed asset, we want a longer term escrow. So if an owner, now going back to the question is, why are you looking for a longer term escrow? The answer is simple. The more time I have, the more likely I can syndicate that deal. I can choose whether I want to buy it myself. I want to broker the deal. What I could potentially develop at the site. How can I potentially make more money with this property? And I'm not stressed out. I'm in a very comfortable state of negotiating. Okay? Now, to be able to convince the owner to give you that longer term escrow, I gave it to you in short. If they're asking for more money, it's only reasonable to say that I need more time. I can potentially get you that $1 million, but I need more time. You're not in a rush to sell. You're not on the marketplace currently, right? I'm not going after what's on the market. I'm off market. You've been there forever, so you're not in a rush. So give me my time, and I'll try to go get your price. Okay, the other thing you can say that's more practical than that is we are a development fund. Our company, we do development. We syndicate in our development fund too. So we say, listen, we need that set duration, that longer period of time, because we want to make sure we can find that added value by going to our architectural team, our engineering team, our contracting team, getting the soil reports, the environmental reports. We got to go through all this work. We got to spend all this money first to see whether or not it's feasible to get you that requested price. And that's why we need some more time, okay? And we're being upfront with you because our strategy is not to just buy your property, but also buy the properties next door and do some plottage and redevelop the whole damn block. And that's a reasonable rebuttal if you're coming in as a development play. You probably can't get a long-term escrow on something that's cash flowing. That's one of the most difficult things to do. If you find a deal today and it's producing income, there's not much to inspect, right? You have the physical inspection, you look at the rents, and if it all makes sense, you close on it. I'm talking more about the more exotic types of property, the vacant properties, the land deals, the really, really large deals, all right? The ones that haven't been in the market for a really long time, the owner-occupied buildings. Those are the deals that could potentially give you that longer-term escrow duration. And those are some of the rebuttals that we use to negotiate longer terms. I hope that helped. How are we doing on time? Good. Okay. Number 3. Getting an owner, a property owner, to sign a PSA, a purchase sales agreement, before you actually performed any due diligence, right? Before you even walked up to see the property. Before you even met the owner. Okay, there's deals that we've done where it's gone under contract without even seeing the site. Okay, that's possible. It happens every day because we do deals nationwide at our firm. And I know other companies that do the same thing. We got the power of Google. We got the power of technology here on our computers to look at these deals. But specifically, when it comes to getting an owner that you potentially haven't met, a site that you potentially haven't really physically visited, how do you get someone to sign a deal with you and to give you time, actual time, as a buyer to perform your due diligence? And how do you get the due diligence to be longer than usual? It kind of goes back to the previous answer I just said with the longer escrow duration, right? Longer escrow duration and due diligence kind of fall in the same place, right? Due diligence is the task of actually inspecting, reviewing the property, the deals, the leases, all that good stuff. Very sophisticated owners, right, that have cash flowing assets that have tenants in it, they're not going to give you a lot of time. I wouldn't give you a lot of time. When I come to sell or dispose of an asset, I am not going to give a buyer a lot of time because I expect them to perform quickly. Now, that's me. I'm pretty sophisticated. And there are others much more sophisticated than me. But we're not talking about me or those types. We're talking about the under-sophisticated, the not as smart. The mass majority of property owners, their business isn't real estate. They have a different business and they happen to own real estate because their business did really well, they put their money into the deal, and now they just own it. And they've owned it for a set duration of time. So for you want to sound sophisticated. You want to sound like an expert, right, with a grain of modesty, and you want to explain to them in a very pragmatic fashion that, look, I need 45, 90, 120, maybe even 180 days or more to evaluate this building. Now, the reason I called you Bill and not Joe is because, Bill, you didn't list your property for sale. You are not on the market. So it obviously makes sense to me that you're not in a particular rush to sell your asset. So what do you care? We're the ones that are going to have to go spend the money for inspections and reporting and yada, yada, yada to get the crew out there. So why don't you give us our requested time to do that, and then we can give you a fair answer whether or not we're going to proceed with this transaction. Now, generally speaking, if someone's eager to sell, they'll give you the time. And the reason they're eager to sell is because you haven't disputed the price, which is something we don't do. I've instructed everyone, don't dispute the price at stage one. Price comes later, okay? Build rapport and get your terms. All the time, that should be your main focus. Rapport building, extract as much information as you can, and get the buyer terms that we're looking for. The longer due diligence, the longer escrow period, etc. Okay? So, to be able to do that, to get someone to sign a PSA, it's a skill set. It's practice. You're going to have to do it many, 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 many times, maybe a few hundred times, okay, of convincing someone to sign the document and persuading until you get to a point where you actually get a signature. People think that this business is easy. It's not. Real estate is a challenging business and it takes time. Okay? Think about this. We're talking about millions of dollars of investment. This isn't I'm buying a pair of sneakers or a t-shirt or even a dumb Rolex. I'm talking about real assets. People have spent a lifetime putting capital into and investing into. This isn't going to take a day or two. It's going to take months. Some cases, some leads, it's taken over a year, maybe 2 years to get it to a place of signing. And that's normal, guys. But the payday, when it comes, oh, how sweet it is. It's a beautiful experience. And that's the day where you're going to be like, it was worth every second to go through all of this grunt work that I've done for the last 12 months, 18 months to get to that close, that promised land. And I promise you another thing. The second you build your confidence, the second you understand your rebuttal scripts, your sales scripts, the whole cycle, once you get it down perfectly and you know how to articulate yourself like a professional, like an expert, it won't take you 18 months. It won't take you 12 months. It'll take you, I'll tell you, the quickest realistic deal time right now is 60 to 90 days turnaround time. That should be the sales cycle for a deal. Whether you're doing brokeraging, syndication, whatever, even leasing, it shouldn't take you more than that much time. If you're a professional and you're an expert and you know your shit. Number 4, how do you convince someone, an owner, to allow you to put the earnest deposit, the initial deposit you put into an escrow or you give to an attorney to actually facilitate the deal? How do you convince them to give it after you perform your due diligence? So let me be clear about this. You got a contract. He signed it. Okay? Normally, you put a deposit when you sign the contract. 1%, 2%, 5% of the purchase price. Most people think that's normal, and it is. We don't do it that way, okay? I will not put any money into a deal, even though I have the right to back out of that deal, right? Because I'm within my window of due diligence, and I can rescind that transaction, right? I can cancel it as a buyer. I don't do it. The reason I don't do it is because a lot of you guys out there that are amateurs that haven't been around the block don't know this very basic thing, that once you put money, you give up your, what I call your soldiers, over into the battlefield of the warfare you're about to perform, which is the deal, right? The transaction. It's very, very unlikely you're going to get all your soldiers back. And this concept is something that no one tells you when you go into business. It's really easy to let go of money. Very hard to get it back. And if you want to maintain leverage over your business, treat your soldiers with the utmost care. Respect every dollar. Okay? So with that being said, I don't give up my money that quickly, because I've seen the money get trapped into these escrows, because what you guys don't know, and I'm going to tell you, is once you sign a contract with the seller and your money's in there, in order to get that money back, even though you write perfect contracts, you're going to need to get their permission to release it. Okay? Even though they signed it the first time, you're going to still need their permission. And for whatever reason, if you stumble upon a psycho wacko job of an owner, boy, oh boy, you're in for fun. You're going to have to litigate to get that money back. And that's more time, more money spent, that you don't want to be in that situation. So I'm giving you guys the golden goose, the advice here to save you guys a ton of time and a ton of money, and also to procure a great rebuttal to someone saying, why don't you put that money in? What you say, whether you're a broker or a buyer, you say, listen, we've had a bad experience in the past by placing our funds into a deal before we've decided to actually proceed with that deal. So either way, you're not getting that money, right, until the buyer has actually waived contingencies, which basically means, okay, owner, it's been 30 days, we've saw what we needed to see, we're ready to proceed. You're not going to get the money anyways until it's released by the buyer. So to you, it makes no difference. And if you want that money, it would make zero difference to you. You're going to get that money only if the buyer wants to proceed. So it's a risk, it's a measured risk the owner needs to take. Okay? And the only way to convince someone to let you do that is credibility. If you are a nobody and if you don't have a track record of deals, it's harder to convince someone not to put the money in, unless you're a really good bullshit artist. Okay? But if you have strategic partnerships, right? You could be an amateur just starting. If you have a Mike Maccabee or a Donald Trump, and I'm, God forbid, comparing myself, but if you had someone with a reputation, infamous or famous, alongside you, then it will bring credibility to the deal. And the person will say, okay, I've heard of that guy. I know that group. They're known to close deals. They're known to transact. They're out in the market. I've seen this guy's face before, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to do the due diligence and proceed forward. The next thing I also say to the owner is, on the moment that the buyer decides to proceed forward with the deal and waive contingencies, we're not only depositing the funds, but we're irrevocably releasing those funds to the seller's custody. Now, the word irrevocably release means that we're never getting it back. So if we decide to renege after that, the money's yours, Mr. Seller. And that's a great tool to get them excited, to say, oh, okay, that's good. So there's no disputing the fact once you gave me that money. So hopefully that answered that question, which a lot of our salespeople get. And I've mentioned this to them. Hopefully you guys, those of you guys who are out there watching this, working in the team, know that answer. Number 6, I got to speak to my wife, my partner, or my whatever, my VP of blah, blah. Okay, look, it's a very critical question. When you speak to someone, you want to make sure that they're the decision maker. If they're not the decision maker, make sure you get an audience with the decision maker. Okay? What you don't want to do is be in between the decision maker. That goes with receptionists, that goes with a spouse, that goes with a minority stake partner, or broker, which is a big time problem, right? That's why I don't transact on market deals, because brokers become these barriers sometimes, and sometimes it's a good thing, but most of the time it's a bad thing in my book. They will not convey the message the way you want it to be conveyed as the buyer or as the broker representing the buyer. So what you want to do is get them to get to the decision maker first and foremost. Okay? So if someone says, I got to talk to my wife, okay, great. When's a good time for me to speak to your wife with you on the phone and address any and all of her concerns? Or better yet, oh, no, my wife doesn't want to talk to you, or my partner's not going to get on the phone. No problem, sir. Why don't you tell me specifically what your partner's concerns are in writing? Or better yet, just tell me over the phone. I'll write it out, and I will happily, formally write an answer, a rebuttal to all of your concerns. And then hop on another phone call or another meeting to see if we can proceed or how we can proceed from there. There shouldn't be an issue with a discussion or a side discussion with a partner. A partner is an obstacle. It's not a fork in the road that will kill the deal. It's something that you have to overcome, and you need to learn to overcome and be comfortable with the fact that a lot of people use this line of, I got to go talk to someone else, and you need to say, who is that someone else? How do I speak to the someone else? What do I need to do to get in front of that someone else? Or better yet, okay, you're going to become my blockade to that other person. What is it that other person wants or needs? What is their problem? How can I become their solution? How can I solve their problem? Okay, that becomes the line of thought or questioning that you need to address when someone says something like that. Okay, that's my 2 cents on that. Once you do, and you basically, what you do is you're eliminating the obstacle. All of these questions or concerns, again, if you have a readily available rebuttal, you can address and solve. So that's that. How to deal with the partner or spouse, and getting to know what their concerns are, jotting those down, and then answering them systematically to solve the problem. Number 7, I don't want to do a 1031 exchange. I want cash out and I want it now. So I covered this. I'm going to cover it again. 1031 exchange is that IRS in the United States allows you to defer your taxes, which means you don't pay taxes when you sell the property right there and then. You can pay it in the future. Or if you do it right, you can keep rolling your money over from one asset to another and never pay. But in order to do a 1031 exchange, you need to find the next property you're going to buy before a certain time, right? Which is 45 days to identify. And a lot of people don't want to be under that pressure. They want to sell their asset. They don't want a really long time to find the next deal. They don't want to be up under the gun. They want to pay their taxes and they want to move forward. Great! If someone says, I don't want to do a 1031 exchange, I don't want a long-term escrow, I want my price, they're very, very strict, say no problem. Then don't expect to get your price. If you're not going to give me any terms, if you're not going to give me anything to go and try to go fend, then expect to get a tough, shrewd rebuttal as a price. And if the guy says, go fuck yourself, then guess what? You did yourself a huge favor. And say, thank you so very much. Good luck never selling your property, and move on to the next prospect that is dying to give you their business. Okay? The point is, if someone doesn't want to give you your terms, you have to work price. Which means if they wanted $1 million and they want it tomorrow and it's worth $700, guess what? They're not getting $1 million. They're going to get the $700 at best or beneath it because they want the money quick. Anybody that wants money fast is going to have to take a haircut. That's just the name of the game in any product. If I want to sell this watch on my hand, right? It's a $35,000 watch. If I want to sell it right now, the kid in my room just said it's worth 20. He'll get me 20 grand. But if I waited, right? If I wasn't in a rush and I marketed the watch on all the different websites, I talked to the watch brokers until I found that perfect buyer, right? I gave time. I'd probably get 28, 29. And I'd save myself 30%. But I would have to wait the time. So any basic seller of a product knows you trade time for cost for money. It's one of the two. So that's number 7. Number 8, I want to use my own contract. Listen, contracts, okay, for those of you guys who don't know, we're going to do another episode on this next week about contractual law, different types of contracts. Contracts are one of my favorite things to create, to negotiate with, and to read. I really enjoy it. And I pray to God that for a lot of you guys out there that want to get into real estate, that you guys share that same attitude and aptitude to that inclination to want to learn, because contracts are going to be the definition of whether or not you're going to really be able to excel quickly and rapidly because of the lingo, understanding the power of leveraging capacity within a contract. Okay? People think you need a really lengthy contract. You don't. A contract is really comprised of a few elements, and if you have them there, you're ahead of the curve. So for me, when someone says, I want to use my own contract, I go, absolutely, miss, ma'am, sir. No problem. What you want to be aware of is that you want to make sure that the specific, strategic, really sophisticated points that you had in your contract are in his contract or her contract. I don't care what you call it. The Maccabee contract, the Aaron contract, doesn't make a difference. So long as it has the bullet points, the language, the specific verbiage, then you're good. Okay? Now, if those of you guys are intimidated by contracts, I don't blame you. It took me years to really get good at it. And I'm not an attorney, so don't take my advice as legal advice. But I love representing myself. I love reading all the contracts. Although I do give my contracts out to my attorneys and they're wolves. But the truth is, first round, first look, it's me. I look at everything. I read every page. A lot of you fuckers are lazy. You don't like reading. I'm sorry. There's no way out. You gotta fucking read. And if you don't get it, you gotta look up the words. It takes work. But when you do it repetitively, you become fucking smart. And the next time you see that word or that clause in paragraph, you'll be like, yeah, I know what that means. And you know how to negotiate it. I can get on a phone call with an attorney today, and I have no problem negotiating a contract. And I do it with a lot of confidence because of one reason. Practice, and because I read a shit ton of them. I also took the initiative to write them. So my advice to you is, don't disagree with the owner or if they want to inject their attorney. Don't be intimidated either, okay? Depending on whether you're the buyer or the broker, whoever is you want to make sure you have a solid associate. If you're an amateur just beginning or someone that doesn't understand contracts, you got to have someone with you with a strong foundation, someone that's almost like a litigator to be able to help you, to give you that confidence, okay? I'm telling you, those people that work with me know one thing about me. I'm very shrewd when it comes to executing contracts. I'm very also nonchalant about it because I know what will get me in trouble, or our team or our company or our brand in trouble, and what will not. I know when to engage and I know when to disengage. It's a skill set. It's a learnable skill set that you too can learn, but you got to put in the fucking time. So don't disagree. Make sure your points are there and you should be good. Number 9, I'm not going to use my broker and I don't want to pay any commission. Excuse me, I don't want to use your broker or your brokerage and I don't want to pay any commissions. How do you get over this commission situation? Simple. I always start with the highest commission possible when we're negotiating a deal. I inject my firm. Even though I'm the buyer, I'll always inject MTIP commercial because why not? Right? That's free 6% on margin, right? 6% commission I always start out to begin the negotiation with. Guy wants $1 million for his price, for his building. I say, okay, no problem. My brokerage or this broker representing me is going to make 6% at $60,000 right off the price. And if the guy says no to 6, I try 5. No, 4, 3, 2, 1. Anything. Get any kind of commission. And if you can't, that's okay, because guess what the next step is? For those of you guys who graduate to become syndicators, right, from our university, those of you guys work with me, you know that when I say it's okay is because we actually, our goal is to buy the contract, to get that contract. Once you get that contract for that $1 million, you now control the deal. When you control the deal, whatever margin you can sell above it becomes your commission. An assignment fee, okay, is in essence a commission. The difference though, what I call it in our firm, if you make over 6% margin or commission, over 6%, you really could go into, that's what I call real wholesaling. Wholesaling, and it gives you the opportunity to syndicate. When you're under 6%, I just call it brokeraging. So for those people that work with me, they know that if we get a deal for $1 million and I can sell it for $1.2 million, which is 20% commission, right? It's $200,000. The first 6% I treat as a broker fee. That'd be $60,000 for my $200,000 gain. I would pay out as commissions, and I treat it as such. The owner, though, doesn't know I paid any commission, right? Because all they care about is that they got their $1 million. So whatever that threshold is, whatever the purchase price is, whatever you can make above it, that ends up becoming your commission. We use the strategy of the first 6 points as the commission. Anything thereafter is what we call the real assignment fee. But the reality is, it's all an assignment fee. So if you can't get them to list, give you a commission agreement, just buy the contract and sell it for $10,000 more, $5,000 more, whatever it is, and treat that as your commission. So that's the solution to that. We're going to take, we have any more time or are we done? Done. Okay. I think we got some more content, but my guys are telling me it's been a quick minutes that we've been talking about this. These were great examples. We talked about rebuttals today. We talked about the importance of scripts and rebuttals. I highly recommend those of you guys who are in sales, sales managers, entrepreneurs, business owners, sit down with your team as a group. If you're 2 people, 10 people, or 100, sit down with yourselves and ask each other what are the most common issues, questions, comments that your prospects are asking you, and then jot them down on a board. Write them all out, and then as a team collectively, think about how you're going to answer those most commonly asked questions. So you get to a point where it just becomes automatic. The guy presses 1, I got 2 for an answer. He says Y, I got X for an answer. You're ready to go. That's going to be a huge, massive leap forward for your sales. Okay? Have rebuttals. Know your rebuttals. Study your rebuttals like your own personal Bible. And I promise you, it will change that what do they call it? The bottleneck that you're experiencing in your sales cycle. If you know rebuttals and you know how to address it.